Okay, this is a sketching exercise. We have a relatively simple part here taken out of a drafting textbook, and one of the things I will point out is that this 5.75 dimension is actually redundant. I'm going to create my sketch using this point here as the origin, which is the origin of this circle that has a radius of 0.88 inches. I'm going to start the sketch by selecting the sketch tool, selecting the front plane, and I'm going to go ahead and use the centerline tool to create an infinite horizontal and vertical set of axes. So I select the centerline, horizontal option, and the infinite length option. I'll come over here and select the origin. Come over here to say OK for that line that I just put in. Change the option to vertical. Again, come across and select the origin. Now I'll go ahead and dismiss that tool. I'm going to now use the circle tool, again selecting the origin and coming out to some arbitrary distance. I'll come back here, use the smart dimension tool, and I will want to create a diameter, so I'm going to go 2 times 0.88. So 2 times 0.88, and we'll select enter. So that has defined the center or the circle that's acting here. Now I'm going to put in a circle here, so to define these lower corners, and 2 other circles to define these upper corners. So zoom out a little bit. I'm going to take the circle tool, and without really any regard of where I'm placing them, I'm just going to draw 4 circles. All right, I'm done with the circle tool. Now what I'm going to do is relate these using a significant amount of relations. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to select this circle, holding the control key down in this circle. Going ahead and using the pop-up menu, I'll make them equal to each other. Now I'm going to select the center of that circle, and holding the control key down in the center of this circle, and I'll make them horizontal to each other. That puts them on the same line. Again, center of this circle, now holding the control key down the center axis and the center of the other circle, and I'm going to use the symmetric relation. So now I'll go ahead with my smart dimension tool and put in this distance from the center line to the center of one of the circles and make that 1.38. And now this distance here of 2.75 I can't quite put in yet because I don't have a line to sketch to. So let me right click to get out of the select tool, and let's go and make that line that we need to go to. So I'm going to come in here and notice that on each of the circles there's a quadrant that you can snap to, and we want to snap to the bottom 2 quadrants. So I'll select, still holding my left mouse button, I'll come over and drop at the other quadrant. So that has defined, just drawn the line without having me to exit out of the sketch tool. So now I'm going to go up here. Now I can go to the smart dimension tool and go from the horizontal center line to this line and put in my distance of 2.75. And the last dimension I need to put in is the diameter or radius of these circles. So I'll select one of the circles and go 2 times 0.63. And I'm going to right click and select and get out of that tool, the dimension tool. Now I'll go ahead and do much to the same set of relations for these 2 circles up here. So left click, control, left click, and utilize equal. Left click, left click, left click, use the symmetry tool, and left click for the 2 centers and make them horizontal with each other. Now I'll go ahead and use the smart dimension tool, 2 times 0.88. So 2 times 0.88. And the distance is 4.7 from this line here. So select that line and select the center of the circle, and we have 4.7 inches. and we have the distance of 2.2. So center line and this distance, and pretty close, but 2.2 gets it exact. Right click to get out of the select tool. Now I have these 4 straight line segments to put in, and we can notice that these 2 line segments and these 2 line segments are parallel to each other. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the line tool. Now I'm just going to select anywhere on this circle, nowhere in particular, except that I don't want to grab a quadrant, so just select somewhere in between those. And now I'm just going to take the line, and I'm going to come across this circle and see if I can't get the tangency relationship to show up, which is what I want. So I got it there. I'm just going to left click. Now you might notice that they've also created, I'm going to right click out of this. You might notice that there's also a tangency relationship that showed down in the bottom circle. SOLIDWORKS did that automatically for us, which is great. So go back to the line tool, do the same thing here, click, see there isn't a tangency here until I come up and find the tangency on this circle, left click, and I'll just double click this time to get out of the line tool, and there's our tangency constraint again. Now this line here is parallel to this, tangent to this circle, and has a right angle, and it's coming off the right angle and is actually tangent to the circle. So let's see what we can do with in terms of relations. So the line tool is still selected, so I'm selecting somewhere on this circle. Now I can't automatically get it parallel to this line here, so I'm just going to come up here and click somewhere, but I'm also going to click onto the circle and see if I can get the tangency constraint to show up. There it is, and I'll double click to get out of the tool. Alright, so now there's 2 relations I want to put together here. So I'm going to right click, use the select tool, select this line, hold my control key down and select this line, and select it to be perpendicular. Now it kind of turned into spaghetti there, but this is okay. I should be able to just grab this corner and drag the line either way. So I'll drag it over here to some approximate location where I think it's going to be. I'm going to select this line, hold the control key down, select this line, and select the parallel relationship. And now that's locked everything down for that particular line. Do the same thing on the other side. So I'll select the circle, come up here to some location, and again try to grab the tangency. Well, sometimes it doesn't show up, so I'll just drop it here and double click. So now I have 3 relations to put in. So right click, select. So left click, control, left click on the circle, select tangency. Now I just left click somewhere in the area out here. So left click to select, control key, left click to select again, and from the pop-up menu, make perpendicular. And lastly, left click on the line, control, left click on the other line, and select the parallel constraint. Now, you say, well, it didn't look right. Well, down here, when I created that line, since it didn't drop perpendicular, there wasn't a tangency constraint here. So I just have to go ahead and click on this one and this circle with the control key and impose the tangency constraint. And there we go. So let's double check our dimensions here. So here's our 4.7. Here is, well, it's not 2 times radius 0.63, but I can fix that if I want to. I could right click, and under display options I can display it as a radius. If I wanted to, I could change how it's related over here, but we typically don't do this since we're making our parts. But if I was inclined, over here on the dimensions text on the left hand side, I could just enter in 2 x space, and that's just really for someone taking a look at our sketch, but you can put that in there. Here's our 1.38. Here's the 2.75, 1.76. Again, I could right click and display it as a radius. So our radius of 0.88 and 2.2. Now you notice that the 5.75 was never utilized. Neither was this 90 degrees because I'm using the perpendicular constraint. But if I wanted to put those in, I can go back to Smart Dimension. But notice everything is fully defined here, so it is going to tell me that it's would try to over constrain it. But I'll left click here and this line, and I get a distance of 5.74. And when I left click, it's going to tell me that I should select to make this dimension driven. I'll say OK. So that only gives me 2 digits of precision over here. I wonder what the actual distance is. So I'm going to right click, select. I'll go under the Evaluate tab. I'll go to Measure, and I'll select this point and the horizontal line down here. And the normal distance here is 5.742. In other words, this black line is basically giving me the total length of the line from this point to that point, but that's not what I want. I want the actual vertical distance, which in this case is the dy distance, so 5.74. So depending upon who was making this part, if they had gone with that dimension instead of one of the other dimensions, we would essentially be making 2 parts that might be off considerably from some specification that we'd be trying to follow. Alright, so now I want to create the part. I'm going, without actually exiting out of the sketch, I'll just go to Features, Extruded Boss. Now, the Selected Contours option is chosen automatically because there's multiple contours here that I can select from. So I'll go in here, and with my left mouse, I will click the various parts that I want to extrude, and do the same on this side. And that forms the part that I'm trying to make. I'll set the distance as being 0.25 and select OK. So there's the part that we've tried to create. Now I go under my Evaluate tab, I can select my mask properties, and I have density, but I haven't specified any material. So if I really want to take a look at it, I'm really interested in the volume and the surface area. Now this is lots of decimal places. I could go under Options and use Custom Settings and say, let me bring this down to 3 decimal places. And I'll say OK. You can also change the units here, but let's leave it in terms of inches. So the volume of this part is 4.997 cubic inches, and the total surface area is 46.457 square inches. And if you were to make this part from this design here, using that as the redundant dimension, you should get exactly these results.